Hi, and welcome back to David Pattinson's Accused Friends. Today I want to ask the question of what makes us British. And the reason I'm asking this question is really for two reasons. I think that, first of all, over the course of certainly my lifetime, we've lost what makes us British. We've kind of lost the best of ourselves. We've become a complacent society, and we've gotten away from our core values. Having said that, I think that this health crisis, which is really an economic crisis, but this crisis is going to get us totally refocused on what it means to be British, and we're going to be going back to being British as a result of this event. And I wanted to sort of ask you what being British means to you, and I've jotted down 10 things here about 10 key words of what being British means to me, and I wanted to try and explain each one and be interested in your thoughts on each of these. I mean, I think there is a phrase out there that strong men build strong societies create weak men create weak societies, and weak societies create strong men. And that's the kind of moment we're at in history here. We're going back to a strong country led by strong people. And so the first point I've written down here on what it means to be British is independence. And they're in no particular order, but I think independence is something that many people would agree marks out a British person. We're known for self-governance. We're known for things like the Magna Carta and self-determination. A lot of our great self-determination and democracy values have been copied around the world. Other countries have copied our model. And I think it's a great example of what it means to be British, to be an independent person. I think we've gotten away from that, from a society with big government. Dictatorial government is what we live in under now. But there's been some signs that the British people don't agree with this model. The Brexit election was one moment that springs to mind. And, there's lots of big and little things that occur in society where British people say, no, we're an independent country, we're a free people. We don't want to be dependent on government. We don't want to be dependent on other countries. We want to be a totally self-functioning, self-determining country. So that was my number one point. Second characteristic of what makes us British, I have put respect. I think respect is a two-way street. There's our respect for other people, and there's self-respect, and there's people's respect for us. And I think we've been very weak in recent years on self-respect. We've been exploited by our government, by other countries. People have been taking, our treasure and our gold, and we haven't got much in return. We've been importing the world's people and importing the world's problems, and what about our people and what about our problems? I think they need to be coming first, going forward, and I think they will be. So I think respect for ourselves. We obviously, I believe, respect a lot of other countries far more than they respect us. I think patriotism comes under this heading. And also, most fundamentally, it's respect for achievement. We're a merit-based society. We respect talented people. We respect great achievements. And I think that marks us out as being a country that is respected by lots of other people, just because respect is a key characteristic that we have. Next point I've got here is innovation. You think about things like, when I was at school, we learned about the sort of feudal farming system, how we innovated to create mass food production, the Industrial Revolution, where we, created a ton of international trade right around the world. There was the big docks in London and other parts of the country shipping absolutely masses of industrial products in and out of the country and around the British Empire. There's been tons and tons of great innovations. One of my particular favourites is the code breakers at Bletchley Park during World War II, and the Enigma code was broken and allowed Britain to win the Second World War. Totally brilliant brilliant achievements and brilliant innovation by our people. I think we want to foster our innovative spirit now and innovate our way out of the current problems. If any country can do that, it is our country. Next one I've got down here, I've got community. I've also got charity next to it, which I think kind of comes under the same thing. We are a country that is very caring and considerate and conscious about our local community and about our national community. We care about our people. We like to congregate in churches. We're also very charitable people if there's people in need. And I think that's been totally exploited by the welfare state, by our government, taxing us to death, all this foreign aid nonsense where we're constantly sending our money out of the country, with charitable intent, but, to our own personal detriment. And I think, charity is needs to begin at home. And I think it's going back to beginning and ending at home until further notice. Next point I've got is identity. I think that being British gives you a certain identity in the world as a person. I know I've traveled around the world a lot, and I've said I'm British, and it's like, wow, this is like a real person here. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of great people from places like Panama or Greenland or Madagascar, but I don't think they stand out in a crowded room quite as much as a British person does. We also have some incredible landmarks that mark us out, that we're very proud of. We've got things like Stonehenge, the Tower of London. We have St Paul's Cathedral. We have Windsor Castle, and as soon as people see those things around the world, they say, yeah, that's British. We have our incredible cultural identity, William Shakespeare, more modern examples like the Beatles and the Mini Cooper, and on and on and on. Lots of interesting things that form our cultural identity and that are recognised in every corner of the world. Next point I've got here is leadership. We're a country that believes in strong leadership and has been happy to step up to lead in lots of different crises, on the world stage, and also to lead ourselves in a daily society. We have a respect for leaders, and a lot of British people, famous British people, have stepped up throughout our history to take great leadership roles, and you could probably name some just like I could. And I think we all know that there's great leadership capability in our country, and it's what makes us British. Resilience is another characteristic I've got written down here, especially in recent times. World War I, we lost just an absolute ton of our great people, and built our way out of it, and then faced a Second World War. Not too many years later, and survived that. We had incredible resilience from our soldiers fighting, and we had incredible resilience from our people here at home that were willing to sacrifice and survive and maintain a positive state of mind. And I hope people are doing that now. I want to be someone that encourages people, and people look at me and say, David's encouraging us. David's given us confidence, and I've got so much confidence for our country. I want to identify our problems because I want to fix them. I don't want to, them to continue and into perpetuity. Let's identify the problems. Let's get rid of them. Let's get on to better days. And you've got to have a resilient attitude to do that. I think there's great resiliency within our country, and that's why I mark it down as a key characteristic. Next one I've got in here is integrity. Going back to our merit system, our merit-based system and respect for achievement. I've got things here like personal dignity. I have our class system, which I'm not overly enthusiastic about, but it's definitely part of our British society. We have our honours system, which rewards achievement and creates an aspirational society. We also have sound money, more or less. I know we have a a debt to GDP ratio now of 80%, which is outrageously high, especially when you're in a crisis. We should have an 80% capital to GDP ratio, so we have a rainy day fund, when the bad times come. But there's no doubt that the pound is a strong currency. We want to make it stronger, not weaker. All this government printing of money is going to make it weaker, and that is a bad thing. But part of our identity is sound money and anti-corruption. We have, at least we used to have, a totally independent judiciary, and we have respect for the law, and we don't take kindly to corruption, and that makes us people of integrity, in my view. Penultimate point I've got here, and these are in no particular order, but family. British family is so important, and we've totally undercut our family and our family values over the last 50 years. And I've talked about this before: no-fault divorce, abortion on demand, and totally biased child custody laws with women getting almost a monopoly over child custody. We totally undermine the value of the father, and yet men, the majority of taxpayers, have still got to pay for children they don't have access to. They've got to pay for single mothers, and it's totally unfair. We've had a political system where, instead of it being talking about a division of the spoils of the managerial class and the working classes, it's now people that work and people that don't work. And politics is about a wealth transfer from people who earn the money to people who feel they're entitled to the money based on grievance. And I've talked about this a lot of times, and getting rid of all that is absolutely critical to avoid bankruptcy as a country, and restoring the strength of the family, I think, is objective number one, with that task. Final point I've made here is being peaceful. We're a peaceful country. We're a peaceful people. We're not looking for trouble, but we're not a country to be messed with. And, I'm talking a lot right now about the government abuse of our legal system and putting people under house arrest. And, we're a peaceful people. I think that's why we're being exploited. But, I know we won't be peaceful for long, unless the government starts obeying the law and respecting people's right to individual liberty. Being a peaceful citizen is an important characteristic of being British, but I don't want anyone to interpret that as being a pushover. Certainly shouldn't be the case. So I want to do a video at some point about how Britain will change in the post-crisis world, and get onto that. But I hope you've liked these points I've made. Feel free to comment if you've got some to add or some to subtract. There's no clear identity about what makes us British, but I think a lot of people would agree with many of my points, and get the fact that we're going back to being a British society again, I think, is a great thing, and gives me a lot of optimism for the future. So thanks again for watching this video, and please subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk to you soon.